because he's moving himself away from. Well, he thinks he's moving himself away from this public figurehood that he has.
What are you talking about?
Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot, that
What
thing
is
we
that?
told you to watch.
What is it?
See, the only reason I don't think he's in jail is because he referenced the girl Pyro. So I'm like, okay, he's acknowledging the female, so maybe he's not in jail. Maybe it's a psych ward or something.
No. He's just at his mom's.
I don't know, man.
But now that friend that he sees every day,
Yeah,
is an imaginary person. That's someone he made up to distract him from his dad.
clearly, because he disappeared when the guy with the dog showed up.
Yeah.
Like right at the same time.
And I can't remember what it was, but there was something that was clearly indicating that he's working at night with the terrorist group. What are they called? F Society. Yeah, like some of these plans that his sister has are actually his plans that he's been telling her, and he's been helping her subconsciously do it.
I'm still going with the loony bin or prison angle. All right.
Did you notice eCoin?
I did.
So I'm trying to figure out who created eCoin from in the Evil Corp organization, because that is like, if that became popular at that juncture in time, that would make E Corp like the most powerful corporation in the United States. Because then they would be not only the biggest bank, but the issuing authority for money. They would basically buy the government with it.
You guys pay way too much attention to a show.
I think they're implying that already.
Yeah. When they came and told him he had to resign, and he's like, no, that's nice.
Now. It's almost 11. Let's do the show.
All right, let's do it.
Do the show?
What show are we doing?
Who's starting it this time? I came up with a good start last week.
What was a good start last week?
It's late on a Thursday.
Perfect. We're going.
Okay, wait. Hold on, I got one here. It's late Thursday night. Do you know where your developers are?
That just got really creepy really quick.
Come on! You do better then. You guys are so freaking quick to criticize.
No, I wasn't criticizing. I was starting the show. I thought it was a good one.
TGI, it's almost Friday.
Well, last week, Thomas came in perfectly. It's time to get ugly, but he totally dropped the ball this week.
Yeah.
He tends to do that.
The Pokeball. Oh yeah, we should make a Pokemon Go reference for the
kids.
For the kids.
All the kids. All the rage, I tell you.
Also many of the adults, my wife included.
Oh really?
I installed it tonight and I still haven't opened it.
One of my kids is doing it. So yeah, I understand the premise. I'm not installing it, but it's funny. You walk around the park now and you see these people playing Pokemon. And they're so obvious because they're like walking in one direction in the middle of the field. They stop and then they turn and start walking in another direction.
Yeah, and the Pikachu following around is a real giveaway too.
One of my favorite vloggers, Casey Neistat, did a whole video up in New York, and it's just rampant up there. He went through like Central Park, and it's just tons of people playing this game.
Well, it's bigger than Twitter. It took less than a week to become bigger than Twitter.
I heard somebody told me they were making something like $1.7 million a day right now.
Yeah, which isn't much comparatively.
What? Compared to what?
Supercell makes close to $5 million a day on their free-to-play games.
I bet you it's more money than they've made on any of their other Nintendo games.
I got out to the Ultimate Field on Tuesday and saw just kids walking around the field staring at their phones like, what are they doing? And then finally hit me.
Did you just start beating them with frisbees?
Yep.
Gotta catch this!
I never got into Pokemon. I don't know anything about its history or anything about it. I know nothing about Pokemon.
It's a fascinating story. Right, it's a
Good.
long, fascinating story.
Glad you clarified that for me. I mean,
It's not Nintendo, by the way.
Oh, what is
I
Pokemon?
thought it was Nintendo.
It's not Nintendo. It's the Pokemon Company owns Pokemon.
Right, but
Well,
Nintendo released the game, right?
Yeah, I was just saying Nintendo's involved somehow.
Nintendo had no involvement in Pokemon Go.
I think you're wrong there.
Nope, it was the Pokemon Company and Niantic, which used to be Google.
I know I've seen articles about Nintendo here.
Yeah, and then Nintendo stock is like through the roof right now.
Yep. Well, Nintendo owns large portions
Anyway, we're way off topic.
the Pokemon.
Nintendo shares up 50% since Pokemon Go release.
Yeah.
You're saying yeah,
they own large portions of the Pokemon Company.
I'm so confused.
Whatever, dude. Nintendo's involved.
Nintendo's got their fingers in everything. Just like Mr. Robot. Hey, Eric.
Hello, Thomas. Hello, John.
I'm
Hey,
so
John.
confused. Didn't we start like 10 minutes ago?
I think we actually started like 30 minutes ago. I don't know. How's everybody doing tonight?
Oh, I'm in mourning a little bit.
Why are we mourning?
Well, PHP 5.5 is dead.
It's end of life. It had to happen eventually.
So does that mean I have to upgrade finally?
You don't have to, but you should.
It means now I'm several versions behind on my production servers, not just a version behind.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah, the support officially ended on July 10th, and a year before this, active support had finished. But yeah, 5.5 is officially no longer even getting security patches. So,
and since you're a big PHP 7 guy, I obviously know you're not really mourning this.
not really mourning this at all, except that it just goes to add even more security problems for potential bad installations of PHP, of which I recently found out there are hundreds of thousands of problems.
It doesn't matter. Those people aren't upgrading even if there were security patches.
That's true.
Well, there's a lot of shared hosts that were running 5.5 that would do automatic security patch updates, and they're going to end up having to force their user base to upgrade to 5.6, which still has almost a year and a half of security support.
And 5.6 is it for the 5s, right?
That's it. Unless the new naming schema starts rolling backwards, like the Xbox One did. we could just go ahead and for PHP 9 we could just hit reset and call it PHP 6.
We need to fill that gap somehow.
Yeah. I got PHP 6 certified, damn it.
Lots of people did. So how was the meetup last night?
It went well. The topic was actually a lot more engaging than I had given it credit for. Travis, the guy who did the presentation, was talking about how he took on a challenge. I'm getting there. How the actual topic was multi-tendency development for a Laravel application. So he was talking about how he took on the challenge of having a client base that where they had multiple clients being served up by one application, but certain clients would want certain individuality or customization to their application, mainly around forms and how forms were displayed. So he took a Laravel app, and this approach is going to sound familiar to you, John, because we've done this in the past with some other approaches that we've used. But he took a Laravel app, he redid the autoloader so that if his application had a folder structure that included like the client's name in this particular namespace, the application would always look in that namespace for controllers and views to override the base controller and views of the Laravel application, or not of the of the default application, the core application. They called it core, which is funny. I thought was funny, but so the core application was the default application that they developed for as the service, and then certain clients would pay them to customize it. So the way he did the autoloader and everything, it would go in there, and they could override views, they could override controllers, and it was a real interesting, real world talk, and it was good. It was just good to sit there and talk with him and see why he took certain approaches and things he could have done differently. And
I do like doing that. Like you said, we've done it for another client, but it becomes a pain in the butt when you actually try to make massive changes, remembering you have to go into all of those different systems and change that code potentially, or you start getting out of sync and much bigger issues at that point. So if you don't abstract it properly, it could lead to a lot of nightmares.
Yeah, and he even touched on the fact that sometimes clients wanted additional columns in the database, and how they were actually addressing that using. I don't think I comprehended exactly how he was doing it, but they used Postgres, and they were leveraging that JSON data type for customized fields for clients.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I know John and I have worked on a project in the past where there was actually a dedicated table for customized entries. But it was interesting because the way he was explaining it is that the tables, all the tables stayed standard, and then each table had one column that was this attributes column that they could throw the customized stuff for that table into. So it was good. Like I said, I used to not be a big fan of meetups where people were just talking about stuff they were working on, and I've over the last couple of years have grown to really enjoy them.
It depends on how it's presented. If it's presented in like, hey, this is what I'm doing, not so interesting, but being able to take something that they've learned and possibly apply it to one of our projects, those are the types of meetups that are interesting.
Yeah, and you're always going to glean something out of those talks, even if it's the after the meetup and everybody's standing around just talking about what was just discussed. So.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I get the same thing out of my next meetup, which I've managed to make somewhat successful with a very clickbaity title.
It's very clickbait, yes.
Yeah. Let's hack a website. Yeah, so, we'll see how that goes.
I'll be up there to heckle you.
Good. I'll need someone to cut me down to size.
I will not be there.
I know.
I refuse.
You're having a baby.
I am. I can't wait for it to come shooting out of... Wait, not out of me.
Oh, jeez. I hope it doesn't come shooting out of anybody.
Damn things are slippery.
I'm sure my wife does. Like, just go.
So, speaking of hacking websites, John posted an interesting article.
Yeah, this was very interesting and something I would not have thought about. We all use target equals _ blank, at least I think we all do, in our HTML just to pop open links into a new window, and never really thought about the potential for vulnerability on your website with that, but you're giving that page access to your window with window.opener.
Mm-hmm.
And
you briefly give it access, right?
Right, but
no, that window maintains access for the entirety of the session.
Yeah.
So as long as that window, so even if you type in a new URL by hand, it will maintain access to whatever window opened it.
Mm-hmm. So there are a couple ways to get around that and to basically close that vulnerability up, putting rel equals no opener and no refer because Firefox does not support the no opener attribute there.
And this is only a concern when you're doing a blank to another URL that you don't have control over.
Right, which is why people use that underscore blank. They don't want you to leave their site, but they want to give you information, so they'll open it in another window. So when
Yeah, and it could be several links down the line. So if you clicked a link to something else that you did have control over, that linked to something else that you did have control over, that linked to something else that you didn't have control over, then you've lost that control.
Mhm.
So it's really all links. I mean, from the description of really how to attack this vulnerability, it seems like something that browsers will need to address specifically. Because it's so easy to manipulate this functionality. If you have a page running that's just sitting there waiting for somebody to open it, and always checking if there's an opener, and then injecting backwards into the opener, then you just have to sit there and let people hack themselves, essentially.
Yeah, and there'll be a link in the show notes, but the example used in this person's article was using it to send you to a phishing site where they're trying to get access to like your Facebook credentials. And if you're not sure what's going on, you could end up giving people your username and password to different sites.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you can also inject JavaScript backwards, which could lead to some kind of man-in-the-middle attacks, which would phish passwords out.
Yeah, the one I like about the phishing one is they use Facebook, which I'm sure Facebook has the proper attributes in all their links, but if using that example, you click the link on there, you go to somebody else's site, they then make the original window, which was Facebook, go to a login page. You're probably not looking at the URL to make sure you're still on Facebook.com. To you, something happened with Facebook, you got logged out, I'm logging back in right away. And if you're not using a password manager, LastPass or 1Password, you're probably just going to type it in and go. And
yeah, I've watched a lot of security stuff lately that basically said at the end of every episode, use a password manager. For God's sake, use a password manager. Everyone should be using a password manager. This episode wasn't about passwords. Use a password manager, though. You need to use password managers.
I guess we just found the new sign-off to PHP Ugly.
Yeah, finally.
There's no reason not to use one.
Yeah, I mean, people lose sight of. Everybody thinks of a password manager as, oh, I can generate these super complex passwords and store them and not think about them. Yeah, that's one of the benefits. But also, these password managers let you know whether or not you're signing into the site you think you're signing into, because if you're not, it won't prompt you with those passwords.
Yeah. So we'll see what'll come of this. I mean, this is the kind of vulnerability I can see getting exploited in the same way that Heartbleed did, or things like that, where there's just massive, easy to implement, infections out there.
I'm surprised this wasn't more well known. I mean, it was brand new news to me, just a couple of days ago. Never heard of it.
I say it's probably brand new news to ethical developers. I'm sure it's pretty well known to the non-ethical. Right, Thomas?
Oddly enough, I actually hadn't heard of this use case before already. So, was the implication there that I'm not an ethical developer?
Less ethical? No.
It's funny. My ethics are weak, but as far as a developer goes, my ethics are just pretty strong.
That's funny.
Strong ethics when it comes to development.
So the sad part is, I read the article. I didn't test it to find out for sure if it was really a vulnerability or not. So I could just be spouting out garbage at this point.
Somebody wrote a blog post, so obviously it must be true.
Because everything on the internet is true.
It's only a vulnerability if you do it incorrectly. I mean, it's not a vulnerability in any individual provider of a service or language or anything like that. It's a vulnerability in if you use the A tag to pop open a new window then you're giving access backwards, and you need to know that. So it's a vulnerability of ignorance, basically.
It's a
Yeah.
vulnerability of browsers, though, wouldn't it be? I mean, why wouldn't you consider that a vulnerability of the browser? What is the functional purpose for it to have that access?
I think there was a time shortly after Frames where people wanted to have, keys that floated above a browser that you could click on a button and have the main window go to a location that you wanted it to, and it gave flexibility to certain behaviors that you could legitimately want.
That's fine.
Um,
I'm still considering it a browser vulnerability. So
Well,
yeah,
Chrome, Safari, you guys get out there and fix that. Firefox.
now here's my next question. Is it just target equals underscore blank, or would it be target anything? It would have to be target anything because
it
that's going
would
to
be
open any.
target. Yeah, anything that opens a new window is going to have the opener object.
Right. So the this article doesn't go quite as far as I would like it to at that point because it made it seem like it was just underscore blank.
Right.
Yeah, I think target blank is the one people have gotten accustomed to using.
Right.
But I
I
don't.
think
I'd have to look. The behaviors JavaScript, doesn't function in what you would call a predictable or normal fashion.
I wonder what the WordPress plugins use because I know there's plugins out there that will allow you to open external URLs automatically in a new window.
Yeah,
I bet they're not taking that into account.
I think we could just assume they're using the wrong thing.
True.
So on the security side of things, um, there was a point earlier this week where someone pointed out that using extract get on the global get variables is very dangerous
I
and
was
shouldn't be
shocked when I
used.
read this.
It, it's not too much of a surprise. This came up in a Stack Overflow question, but then somebody on Reddit decided, well, I can just search GitHub and see how many people are using it, then we'll know how big of a deal it really is. And so they executed a search on GitHub, and GitHub returned almost 900,000 projects that were using this functionality, which is very easily exploitable to enumerate your code and override server values and things like that. So, that's the kind of thing that if you're using a lot of libraries pulled off of Git, you might want to do a check and see if it's using this incredibly vulnerable format.
Now, to be fair, this only works in the global namespace, not really
Right.
within a. Hopefully, packages are properly classed, not using the global namespace, but I guess that could be. I could be thinking too nicely.
I think it's used mostly by people who couldn't use their globally scoped get and post variables after a certain version of PHP and decided they were going to force it to happen anyways. What was that called?
Register globals.
Yeah, register globals. I think
Was that
this.
it?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that
it.
was it.
Good old
Yeah.
days.
So I think because register globals got deprecated rather quickly and people were doing a lot of development that relied on it, then they just found this simple way of forcing it to happen again, even though the reason it was removed was incredible security issues. But who knows?
I like the examples shown in that article. Just a simple GET request to your server, passing in underscore session or whatever, and all of a sudden you're affecting the person's session. It's
Right.
crazy.
So yeah, I think that's basically it for security on this week's
Is that this
conversations.
week in PHP security?
Yeah, maybe I should. We'll do that. We'll make a regular segment. We'll
No, that's not.
have some Jeopardy
No
music.
regular segments. It's bad enough we're doing a regular podcast. So
It was pretty
PHP
bad.
PHPStorm did a update that a lot of Vim users have been anxiously awaiting for a very long time to their Ideavim. Uh, I've been using these features now for about 2 months because I broke down and went ahead and linked their GitHub repo into my PHPStorm just because I couldn't wait anymore.
Really, which of these features did you find most useful then?
It's the whole surround, yank surround, change surround.
Really?
So that's a Vim plugin, one of the Vim plugins that I felt like I could not live without. It's from what's his name, Tim Pope, I think, or the guy does like a zillion of like the best Vim plugins. And this was one of his more popular ones, and I had gotten this is one of the plugins I told you I had gotten so accustomed to using with my setup that it hurt me when I went to PHPStorm and didn't have it anymore. And I tried to fake it by creating live templates that did it for me, and couldn't do it. But yeah, it's so essentially what this does, what this enables you to do is you can be on a word or a sentence or whatever you can select with Vim, and say it's like surrounded by double quotes. You want to make a single quote. You can do y enter double quote single quote, and it changes the double quotes to single quote. It sounds goofy, and it sounds like how often do you use that? But you actually use it more frequently than you think. And it's also very useful when you forget to put like a quote around something. You can like select a word and then wrap it into a quote, all using your keyboard. So
it really sounds like something that people who use Vim a lot would do.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And like I said, it's one of the more popular plugins in the Vim world for people who use plugins.
It reminds me of when the Mac had one button and PC had two buttons, and the Mac people would say, well, what do you need one button for? You just hold what do you need two for? You just hold the one button down, and then you're given a list of options. You can hit Y, Control Q, and then hit the button, and then you're given a different list of options.
Are you talking about the mouse? When the
Yes.
mouse had the one click? Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can just use my mouse to click to where I want to put a quote, and then I just put the quote there.
And then you gotta reach for your mouse and move it to the other end and click and put the quote there. I know.
Don't bother. Don't
I know
bother.
how you guys work.
He's not going to understand.
Some people call me a workaholic for using my mouse too much, but I think it really helps with my flow.
You have no flow, man.
That's
You
true.
have no flow. GitHub announced some interesting news. I think it was today or yesterday. Again, not a big deal for people in general, but if you're into Laravel, GitHub now does code highlighting for blade templates. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to how popular Laravel's become, because GitHub, as much as we use it for web development stuff, GitHub isn't web centric at all. GitHub is every coding language that you could want to have on there. So the fact that they're including a subset of a view template for a specific framework is somewhat telling of how popular that framework has become.
Yeah.
I'm assuming somebody at GitHub uses Laravel and said, you know what? I want this.
Probably exactly what happened. So, I don't know if you remember a couple months ago, Thomas, John and I were telling you about a presenter who presented downtown, and her presentation was doing development in the cloud. So she had nothing installed locally. Her IDE and everything was in the cloud, and the IDE she was using at the time was Cloud9, and it was one of the more popular ones. I've used it in the past. It is what it is. It's a web-based IDE, so it has its strengths, it has its weaknesses. Interesting thing happened this week. Amazon Web Services purchased Cloud9.
Really?
So that
Nice.
means that your entire development environment, from your Git repo to your servers hosting to your messaging
IDE.
service to your ID, everything can be right there within the Amazon environment, within the Amazon cloud. You really have no need to go outside the cloud anymore for anything.
Yeah, that would have been nice for me this morning because my development machine kernel panicked last night, and I ended up spending 6 hours bringing it back up to a working state so that I could work today.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. I mean, worst case scenario, you get a Chromebook, you get Cloud9, and you're up and running. So it's gonna be real interesting to see if they actually take this and start to integrate it with some of the web services that they have, or because it already has integrations into like GitHub and Dropbox. So it'll be cool to see what they do with it.
Yeah, I don't know about using Dropbox for anything I would do in development, but yeah, that'll be an interesting one.
Do you know what that plugin does, Eric? The Dropbox plugin? Is it just...
It's just storage. Again, you're on the cloud here, so it ties to your Dropbox account, and you can do your development there. So you just store your files there.
Gotcha. I know every time I've tried doing that locally or on my machine, using Dropbox is just a pain in the butt.
Yeah, we've talked about this before about having Git repos in Dropbox, and you change branches, you do pulls, and Dropbox just goes off the chain and spends the next 2 days trying to sync up all your machines again.
So here's an interesting new tool for you guys. Go ahead and open this up and work along with me on this one. Externals.io.
So I have it open. I checked it out. I don't understand the purpose of this. You care to explain it?
So if you're on the PHP Internals mailing list, then
which is open to the public, everybody can do.
Open to the public, you get a flood of emails, and it can be very hard to parse that alongside of your existing emails in your email client. So what this is just a simple web interface that shows all of the topics of conversation in the internals group and threads them. And if you log in, if you log in with GitHub, then you can track which ones you've read, which ones you haven't read, and it's just a sort of a simple interface for people who are not involved in internals to at least see what internals is doing.
You know they have mail clients that will group emails by threads as well, right?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the internals mailing list, and I very rarely look at the email because I have them automatically pushed into another folder. Unless I go look at it, I'm never going to notice it. So it's really just eating up space on my machine.
Right. I mean, email on its own is not the most efficient way to do things.
It's not really on your machine, though. It's probably in your Google account. If you're doing anything like I do it, I agree. I do the same thing. I have it pushed to another folder, and occasionally I'll pop in there, especially if I see something happen on Twitter and they reference internals. I'll go over there and catch up on the thread. I think what I would like to have seen in here is maybe some sort of expanded search functionality would have been nice. I mean, my Google inbox has pretty good search, but I don't know. I guess this is good if you don't particularly want to subscribe. Maybe you don't want to share your email address with it, or you don't want to be part of the mailing list, whatever. Sure, but I don't know.
And it's an ongoing project. This is just the first release of it that was released this week. I think not even this week. I think 2 days ago. And it is open source, available for you to contribute your own changes to. So if you want to write a search system for it, go ahead.
I don't need to. I got my Gmail account. You get excited over the weirdest things.
Yeah, Vim.
Don't even start with.
I actually like this. I actually like this interface.
I like this too. It's got a nice interface for how long ago the most recent activity was. It's got unique icons for each developer who's contributing, so that you can tell just by
unique icons. I'm sorry, I don't. This doesn't. This excites me just about as much as your whole changelog on the Laravel thing service was. I'm like, okay, it's nice, but yeah, whatever. Don't mean to take the and Hey, I'm typically in the wrong here. Don't worry about it. Don't take offense. It amuses me the things that excite you.
It's not that I'm excited about it. It's that
You're excited.
it's a nice place to go and look at the interesting things that are going on in the internals community.
Or you could just go to your email client and do the exact same thing.
Right, and start collecting emails and sort through them in your client's own
Yeah.
non-optimized way.
I don't know.
The threading here is designed specifically for these discussions. So RFC votes will link to the RFC that's being voted on. Information that's not inherently in the email is being made available because it's hooking into Git. Oh, wipe that grin off your face.
Just, you guys give me a
Jesus.
hard time about rambling on all the time. I can't give you a little payback. No, actually, what I'm doing while you're talking is I'm pulling up my inbox so I could do a comparison side by side to see what they look like, and I don't know what to tell you. My inbox pretty much looks like this site. I'm seeing the threads. I see how many are in that thread. I see which I can open up the thread and see which emails in that thread I've read and haven't read. So it actually looks pretty much exactly like the website. Again, good job, Thomas. Good find. I appreciate your hard work.
Thank you. I will tell you something that I worked on for almost a day and a half, which was tracking down recursive FTP functionality.
Now, is this FTP or SFTP?
This is FTP, and if you go on PHP.net and
I don't think I knew FTP had recursive functionality.
yeah, that's the problem.
It doesn't, right?
Right. So there is in the specification for FTP a flag that you can set that if the server supports it, it will give you the contents of a directory recursively when you list the contents of the directory.
Right.
But
you can't get them that way.
But it turns out that every FTP server doesn't support this.
Yeah.
IIS does not support this. Apache FTP server, every FTP server I could find, I looked into and could not find a single FTP server that actually supported this flag, which was only in the RFC. And the reason that it was an issue is because what I needed was recursive FTP listings. So I needed this actual functionality, but every time I set that flag, and let me see if I can find the exact.
It's been years since I've done actual FTP.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I can't even tell you last time I've done. And command line FTP on top of that, forget about it. Forget about it.
Yeah, I'm having trouble.
Please
FTP
wait while
raw.
Thomas tries to find this.
Yeah. So FTP_raw list, which returns a detailed list of files in the given directory. So the third argument is recursive, true or false, and this is in the documentation. So I wondered, why would this be in the documentation if it's completely unsupported?
I wonder why Thomas is using FTP.
Because I deal with large media files on a daily basis.
SFTP? SFTP has recursiveness.
Well, FTP doesn't. No, I think they should completely get rid of this, at least in the documentation. The documentation has the three arguments: this FTP stream, the directory, and recursive true or false, which is completely misleading because nobody does recursive. Now, if you look at the actual C code for this function, which I did, I pulled up the source code for this, and it does set the flag correctly. It does do the thing the RFC says you can do. It's just that nothing in the world actually responds to this. So that's my RFC. I'm going to issue an RFC to remove that argument from that function.
Except
Yeah.
the people on internals probably use it and happen to have the one FTP server that has recursive functionality, so you'll be downvoted right away.
I don't know. I can't manage my mail client well enough to read internals.
Yeah, to me, FTP is about one notch, maybe above Telnet, in in the sense that it's a protocol I would probably never use again,
I use
ever.
Telnet all the time.
I'd love to never use it again. I've thrown a very big fit about using it at my company.
You were kidding, right, John?
What?
You
You use
use
Telnet?
yeah.
No, I use it a lot. I don't use Telnet daemon. I use the Telnet client.
Oh, okay, all right. I know where you're going with that. Yeah, yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
See, and I just got comfortable with the Gopher protocol.
Jeez. So I stumbled across a fun article. Actually, I stumbled across two fun articles. Thomas, I thought you would appreciate this. John, you can start zoning out now.
See,
I mean, we're 30
I
minutes
think-
into the podcast. You'll probably start zoning out anyways. Go ahead, Thomas.
I think it's hilarious that you find this interesting, because this just sounds like the worst idea ever.
Okay. Maybe we won't talk about it then.
No, we talked about my thing that you didn't like.
Yeah.
You don't
So-
you don't like my mail client replacement.
I actually want to hear about this.
So I enjoy tinkering. I have quite a few Raspberry Pis. I don't have any Arduinos, or what's the other one?
Arduinos.
Arduino, yeah. I don't have any of those, but this week I stumbled across articles from both platforms that had developed libraries to allow you to use PHP on them. Not on them. You could always use them on them. Like you could always install a web server and PHP and let it run. This is to use PHP to control them. So it allows you to control like the input-output circuits that they have to do little things like blink lights and stuff like that. I just thought it was cool. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I haven't done it, haven't tried it, but I thought it was an interesting topic, and I thought maybe something you would be interested in. Apparently, I was wrong.
Maybe Tom wouldn't be a jerk about it.
I am super interested in Raspberry Pis. I just never bought one, and still haven't found a thing I would use it for.
I think that there's two types of people in the world. That there's the people who are interested in Raspberry Pis and have never bought one, and then there are people who are not interested in Raspberry Pis because they bought one.
Oh, is that you? You don't have any interest in them?
That's me, and like every geek friend I know has a Raspberry Pi in the closet that they use a couple times.
Mine's right
And
here by my desk. I fire it up all the
Do you use
time.
it? Yeah.
I mean, I don't use it ongoing. This is my little test thing where I'll try things out, and I mean, yeah, I still play with this thing. We do have a developer who set up his Raspberry Pi at home to be a VPN tunnel for him. So we have.
He also has it controlling his sprinkler system in a very interesting way, where it has sensors testing the groundwater or the water level in the ground to figure out whether you should turn on or off the sprinklers.
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem like a fun device. I just don't know what I would use it for, and I don't know if I want to spend the money to figure that out.
Yeah, that's my. I struggled to come up like the really cool things to. The coolest thing I did was I set it up for security, where I bought a camera for it. I installed some packages, did some configuration, and next thing I knew, I had a pretty good security camera. I was looking at actually using this for my home security and did the math, and everything once said and done, including the casing for the camera, it was going to run about $100 to $120. And of course, then I'm like, okay, well, I can go buy a drop cam for $120. So why would I build all these? But no, it's just a fun for me. It's just fun to play with. It's learn on, try new things. I don't know. I enjoy it.
We had another developer that had one that did something very similar. Used it as a baby monitor for,
Good idea.
but he did it for about a day until he found his kid with the cord wrapped around his neck.
Oh,
He was like,
jeez.
maybe I won't do that. Maybe I'll take this thing down.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think maybe when your baby monitor threatens the life of the baby, that's breaking one of Asimov's rules. You have to put
yeah,
the baby monitor down.
there's no way around it. Like anything you do with the Raspberry Pi ultimately ends up looking janky as hell, you know. Well, don't you know somebody, John, that had set theirs up to control their Christmas lights?
No, I don't
Yes, you
think
did.
so.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know. Does he use? I don't know if he uses a Raspberry Pi for that. Maybe he does.
I thought I remember watching his YouTube video from last year, and that's what he had used.
Oh.
I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that was the case. But that's another very common thing that people use Raspberry Pis for, are lighting and decorations.
Yeah, I suppose my issue with this is just it seems like the wrong tool for the job. That development in Raspberry Pi seems like it would need something better at handling looping.
Well, so understanding the purpose of the Raspberry Pi to begin with, it is that of a learning device. I don't think it could ever be considered, the wrong use case, as long as you're learning from it. But
Sure.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, yeah, no, you couldn't build a product probably, or you probably shouldn't build a product using a Raspberry Pi in this PHP library.
Don't build something that say a baby's life depends on.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I just thought it was an interesting topic. Sorry it wasn't as cool as your internals mailing list.
I thought it was an interesting topic.
Well, thank you,
I
John.
wanted to hear about it.
Thank you.
See, I supported both of you. I get a gold star for this episode.
You're such
You know-
a good mom. I don't have a favorite. I love you both the same.
Last
I'm
week we
practicing.
discussed the Tesla autopilot crash, did we not?
We did. And I stood corrected, actually. I thought that was the second death based on that, and turned out I was completely wrong, 100% wrong, because it was actually the first.
Yes, it was the first. There has been a second crash, but the crash was not fatal, and it's still being investigated. But I can tell you this: the kill count on Pokemon Go is greater than that of the Tesla.
I heard about this.
I have not heard about this.
Yeah, in our very own Encinitas,
Yeah.
people walked off a cliff playing Pokemon Go.
Oh, you gotta stop. Are you serious?
It's serious. It happened.
Yeah.
But okay, so I saw this on Facebook, and a friend of mine commented saying this isn't because of Pokemon Go. It's happened a couple of times down there with people just walking and texting, and it's on the cliffs over the beach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you're just not paying attention, and next thing you know, you're plummeting to your death.
Yeah.
It's not something to laugh about, but
No.
But-
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Pokemon Go though is an ARG. I mean, you're looking through the lens of the camera of your phone while you're playing it. So you got to know that you're getting close to the edge of the cliff because it's showing you a picture of you getting close to an edge of a cliff.
But
How did they figure out they were playing Pokemon Go?
it had us.
First question is, what were those people doing up there in the first place? The second question is, well, let's look at their phones and find out.
Yeah. I'm sure the application was still running, and
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Wow, that's terrible. But yeah, I know the exact area you're talking about, and it's not anything. If you're not paying attention walking along those cliffs, whether it's texting, whether it's listening to a radio or talking to a friend, it's very easy to misstep and go bye-byes.
yeah, but especially with this game, if you watch people playing it, looking at their cell phone, they're walking one direction, then all of a sudden they pivot and turn, and they're going another direction.
Yeah,
They're not
totally.
paying attention to anything.
Yeah. So how long before there's a law about walking and using your mobile device?
There are laws in places like New York, there are laws that say you cannot do this. You cannot walk and use a mobile device. And I
Oh,
don't let
really?
my kids. Yeah, I absolutely do not let my kids do it either. If I see them walking while using their phone in any respect, I will stop them and make them put their phone in their pocket and shame them for it. Because
So
I don't.
hopefully you follow that too.
Yeah, I don't
You
walk
know,
anywhere.
and we get on our high horse, but let things start going bad at work, and we're the same way. You know, we're walking, trying to fix stuff, or checking emails, or talking on Slack. You know, I think it's human nature that you start getting focused on something, and you're focused. That's all there is to it. So whether it's Pokemon Go or whether it's the application's down.
Yeah, and there was another incident where a Pokemon Go player was driving and crashed into a tree.
Well, there's so much wrong with that topic right there.
Yeah, you know what's with is that the day that the day after Pokemon Go came out, there were police departments issuing notices to remind people, by the way, don't play Pokemon Go while driving your car.
It's
And
So now this has started a whole new genre in porn. They said that the some of the top porn sites said that the searches for Pokemon porn on their site has skyrocketed.
God,
what?
ugh,
Skyrocketed. Because I guess the one thing that's happening a lot is people are posting these Snapchats of Pokemon appearing on naked ladies or bedrooms or whatever.
yes.
So this is like a thing, and yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, my friend. Well,
I'm too old for this. I don't get it.
I don't get it.
well, related in related tech news. Did you guys see what T-Mobile's announcement was about Pokemon Go?
No.
There's sort of a bit of an uproar about this because T-Mobile said, "Hey, if you're playing Pokemon Go, then your data for Pokemon Go is free. So, we won't charge you anything for whatever data Pokemon Go generates." And a lot of people are saying,
How
"Yay, this is great."
other people are like, how do they know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Right. And this is a clear violation of net neutrality.
That's what I was about to say. It's like this is reverse net neutrality. People think they're benefiting, but they're not.
They're not. No, they're being taken advantage of and placated for yet another year while data rates keep going up and data costs keep going down. It it's completely ridiculous that people are celebrating this as a win in some way
Yeah,
when
I'm
you're
with you on
paying
that.
$15 for 1 GB of data. I mean, it's complete insanity. And an episode of a TV show could easily eat up your 1 GB of data for $15. If you rent a movie and you happen to forget your Wi-Fi isn't turned on, then that $1 movie rental is going to cost you $16,
Yeah,
which it's totally insane. And this is just another way that these cell companies are reinforcing their control over their users.
totally. Yep. All right. Well, I'm issuing some control over this podcast. I'm
At
playing
least somebody
music in the
is.
background. Music's playing right now. You can't hear
Are
it,
you
but it's
playing me off?
yeah, playing you off. We're gonna wrap it up. This was a productive show.
There's a lot of PHP in it for some reason.
I don't know. You think the show like had PHP in the title or something? It's horrible.
I think we all panicked at the last minute when we realized we didn't have enough topics. Just started
But,
we started
This
trolling for
Mr.
PHP.
5% contributor had the only topics up there for all week.
you did. I popped in there. Well, I have the Chrome plugin, and I kept adding topics. I'll add topics to there, but then I'm like, well, I should go see if there actually any of these topics are already on the list before I add them. And I went over there. I'm like, holy crap, John's been adding topics. So, all right. Well, this has been another great show of PHP Ugly.
Great job. Hope I'm here next week.
You'll be here next week.
You'll be here.
You'll be
We'll
here every week.
Yeah,
You
about
remember our sign off?
American. Oh, we have a sign off? I thought I
Yeah.
just did it.
No, we have
Use
an
a
official
password
sign
manager.
off now. Use a password manager.
Damn it.
For
Oh,
God's
geez.
sake, use a password manager.
I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout.
And we made it through a show without a, this is a something dozen. I gotta turn fans on, man. I'm melting here.
All right, I'm
I'm
stopping
saving-
recording.
Stop recording. Stop
I'm saving
broadcasting.
my dozen
Can you
comments
take us off air, please?
20th episode. Oh, sweet. Yeah, your dozen thing made it